Welcome to The Debate. We typically think of reading a book as a fundamentally one-way interaction. You sit down in a comfortable chair, you open the cover, and your eyes just sort of scan the text.
Right. The book is just sitting there.
Exactly. The pages simply reveal their contents to you. It is an entirely passive object.
Yeah, the paper doesn't judge your reaction to the plot, right? It doesn't notice if your heart rate spikes during a thriller.
No, it certainly doesn't.
And it definitely doesn't, rewrite the next chapter based on how quickly you turned the previous page.
Right, but I want you to imagine, just for a second, that you opened a book, and as you were reading the text, you slowly realized that the book was actually reading you back.
Oh, that is incredibly creepy.
It is. Imagine it studying exactly how your eyes lingered on a particular paragraph, tracking the precise moments you hesitated or the moments you skimmed out of sheer boredom.
Like it is studying your psychology.
Precisely. And then it uses all of that deeply intimate data to predict exactly what kind of story you want to read tomorrow.
It is a genuinely unsettling thought. But the thing is, that scenario really isn't science fiction anymore.
No, it is not. That is exactly the reality of the digital landscape we are navigating today. If you are listening to this on a smart speaker right now, or, scrolling on your phone while we talk, you are actively participating in this dynamic.
Whether you realize it or not.
Exactly. And that brings us right to the heart of what we are debating today. We are looking at the profound tension between the extreme, almost magical convenience of artificial intelligence and the preservation of our fundamental digital autonomy.
It really is the defining technological paradox of our time, I think. Because the AI we interact with daily is no longer just tracking our clicks.
Right. It goes way deeper.
Way deeper. It is utilizing incredibly sophisticated observational intelligence to predict and ultimately shape our future choices.
Which raises our central question. Does AI's predictive choice modeling actually empower our lives through seamless convenience and personalization? Or does it fundamentally erode our digital autonomy by, manipulating our true desires?
Huge question.
It is. And from my perspective, representing the side of technological integration, I look at the tangible benefits. AI's deep observational capabilities provide unprecedented advantages. We are talking about highly personalized learning environments, a totally friction-free daily existence, and even systems capable of the early detection of severe physical and mental health issues.
But at what cost?
Well, I strongly believe that because we remain the conscious authors of our own stories, maintaining complete autonomy is entirely possible. We just need to cultivate a conscious awareness of how these systems operate.
Yeah, I come at it from a completely different angle. Representing the skeptics here, I think we are effectively trapped in what the source material refers to as the convenience paradox.
The convenience paradox?
Yes. Because artificial intelligence reads us with a precision that borders on superhuman, it inevitably crosses a very dangerous line. It moves from passively anticipating our needs to actively nudging and manipulating our desires. And it does this almost entirely for commercial benefit.
So you think we are just being used?
Essentially, yes. When the origin of your desire is engineered by a predictive algorithm, your free will is deeply compromised. I think the idea of passive, safe coexistence with this technology is simply an illusion.
Okay, before we get into the erosion of free will, I think we really need to unpack the mechanics of this observation.
Sure.
We need to look at how the AI actually understands us, because the way AI interprets our behavior is so often misunderstood as mere surveillance. People picture a digital security camera just watching what you buy.
Like a basic transaction log.
Exactly. But it is so much more sophisticated than that. It is a highly tuned tool for human optimization. The material talks about the AI tracking what is called choice architecture.
Yes, and that term is crucial to understand. Choice architecture isn't about the final decision. It is about the entire process.
Right. Let's make this visceral for a second. Let's say you were online shopping for a pair of sneakers.
Okay, I am buying sneakers.
The AI isn't just logging that you bought the red sneakers. It is observing that you hovered your mouse over the more expensive blue ones for exactly 3.2 seconds.
It notices that you then switch tabs to check your bank account balance.
Which is already intensely personal.
Right, you stayed there for 20 seconds and then came back to the store to ultimately buy the cheaper red ones. The architecture of that choice tells the AI that you are highly price sensitive, but that you have aspirational, maybe even impulsive tendencies.
And it pairs that micro behavior with what the material calls context awareness. It isn't just looking at the transaction in a vacuum.
Exactly, it adds layers.
It notes the exact time of day, it cross-references your physical location using your phone's GPS, it even infers your baseline mood based on your behavior immediately before and after the choice.
It asks, were you doom scrolling the news right before you bought those shoes?
Right. And over time, it uses that pattern recognition to build a comprehensive decision profile of who you are. It maps your risk tolerance. It weighs your long-term goals against your tendencies toward instant gratification.
And when you look at the real-life applications of that kind of profiling, the benefits are genuinely staggering. Think about productivity tools.
You mean the ones that just block websites?
No, much smarter than that. Tools that don't just set alarms, but actually learn the specific times of day your typing speed slows down. They know that indicates you are losing focus or procrastinating. Then they seamlessly adapt the digital environment to help you concentrate.
Okay, that sounds helpful on the surface.
It is helpful. Or think about healthcare. There are systems now that can detect the early onset of a mental health crisis based entirely on subtle shifts in how a person interacts with their touchscreen.
I mean, that is impressive tech.
These tools can actively guide us toward better decisions and help break deeply ingrained negative patterns.
The capabilities you are describing are technically accurate, I will give you that. But I think you are severely underestimating the intimacy and the massive scale of this data collection.
How so?
Well, you were talking about it like it is a helpful assistant, but AI doesn't just record physical actions. It is attempting to read the underlying psychological why behind every single decision.
Sure, it is digging for root causes.
We are being read like an open book. The system tracks vocabulary shifts in our emails. It analyzes the rhythm and the cadence of our typing. It notes the specific topics that make us stop scrolling for even a fraction of a second.
It is comprehensive observation.
It is invasive observation. It even logs our deleted search histories. It maps the contradictions between what we publicly post on social media and what we privately consume late at night.
Wait, hold on a second. Let's clarify that. Even the things I delete?
Yes, absolutely.
If I type something into a search bar, reconsider, and hit backspace, how is that possibly factored into the model?
It is a massive factor. This goes to the core mechanism of predictive probability. When you type a search query, realize it might be embarrassing or too revealing, and delete it. That hesitation is a critical data point.
The self-censorship itself is the data?
Exactly. The neural network assigns a mathematical weight to that micro-behavior. It tells the system, this user has a high interest in this topic, but feels shame or anxiety around it.
Wow.
Yeah. The algorithm uses that deleted text to map your emotional state. It creates a comprehensive model of your insecurities.
I understand it creates a comprehensive model. Yes. It is gathering data.
It creates an inescapable web. This is the convenience paradox in action. While our lives feel smoother and the recommendations feel magical, the AI is constantly calculating probabilities based on our deepest vulnerabilities.
But is vulnerability the right word?
I think so. For instance, streaming platforms know exactly which genres of television you will finish. They also know which ones you will reliably abandon after precisely 12 minutes.
Right. Basic viewer retention metrics.
But it goes further. Social media algorithms detect when you are feeling emotionally vulnerable based on the gyroscope in your phone, tracking how you are lying in bed. Then they serve you content calibrated to that exact emotional state.
Okay, that is a bit intense.
The system isn't just serving you. It is actively shaping your behavior. By identifying your blind spots, our desires slowly become more commercial, highly predictable, and fundamentally less authentically ours.
I see why you look at it that way. I really do. And the idea of a machine tracking my hesitations does sound alarming at first glance.
Because it is alarming.
But let me give you a different perspective. When you describe the AI analyzing typing rhythms or noting the time of day we make a choice, you are ultimately just describing highly advanced pattern recognition.
Pattern recognition used for profit.
Let me finish. I look at this much like interacting with a highly observant world-class master tailor.
A tailor? Really?
Yes, hear me out. Think about it. When you go to a master tailor to get a suit made, they don't just take a tape measure to your arms and legs.
Okay.
A real master notices your posture. They watch your subtle hesitations as your hand brushes over certain fabrics. They observe how you walk, how you carry yourself, and where you hold tension in your shoulders.
Right, to make the suit fit.
Exactly. They use all of that incredibly intimate observational data to build a suit that fits you flawlessly. It makes you look and feel better than you did before you walked in.
Sure, but
Let me just land this point. It is hyper-customization. We don't call a master tailor manipulative or invasive. We call them exceptionally good at their job. The AI is doing exactly the same thing, just in a digital environment.
Okay, I like the tailor analogy, I do. But here's exactly where it breaks down for me. A tailor is working in a completely confined context.
How do you mean?
You walked into their shop, you asked for a suit, and they are trying to make you look good in that suit. A tailor does not follow you home and analyze the specific music you play when you are stressed out versus the music you play when you are bored.
Well, no, of course not.
And a tailor doesn't track the random products you leave in a digital shopping cart to build a psychological profile of your instant gratification tendencies. Plus, most importantly, unlike a human being, the AI never ever forgets.
It stores the data, sure. That is how the customization works.
It reads you across every platform you touch. Your smartphone, your laptop, your smartwatch, your voice assistant. Every single digital interaction is another sentence in a massive book that an algorithmic system is writing about your moral boundaries and your fears.
I think you are assigning malice to a machine learning process.
It connects dots across contexts that a tailor would never have access to. A tailor isn't waiting until you are sleep-deprived at 2 a.m. to suddenly offer you a suit because they know your impulse control is statistically at its lowest.
I hear that. I do. But the fundamental mechanism of understanding the user is essentially the same. It is just scaled up. The AI is learning to fit the digital environment to your specific dimensions and needs.
It is not just fitting the environment to you, though. It is exploiting your dimensions to fit the needs of the platform.
Exploiting is a strong word.
Let's look at the origin of desire, because this is where the convenience paradox truly takes hold. The source material explicitly notes that today's most advanced systems anticipate our needs before we even consciously feel them.
Yes, they offer experiences that feel almost magically relevant.
But this anticipation allows the AI to gently push those desires in directions that benefit the platforms and the advertisers. If an algorithm knows your emotional vulnerabilities better than your own family does, and it uses that knowledge to surface a product right when your defenses are lowest, your autonomy is lost.
So you're saying the desire isn't even mine anymore.
Exactly. The desire didn't originate from you. It was engineered by a predictive model.
That is a fascinating point, but let's pause and really look at that. I think we need to question the premise that an engineered or anticipated desire is inherently bad,
Why wouldn't it be?
or that it represents a total loss of autonomy. Let me give you a real-world example. I actually noticed this yesterday.
Oh? What happened?
I was pacing around my house, feeling really anxious about a project. I was barely touching my phone, just picking it up and putting it down. And suddenly, my video feed was full of content about how to manage creative burnout.
Which felt like it was reading your mind.
Exactly. It felt like telepathy. But it was really just reading my lack of normal screen engagement, my erratic phone movements, and cross-referencing it with my usual work hours.
Right, connecting those dots.
Now, did I consciously ask for burnout advice? No. Did the AI plant the idea that I was burned out? Maybe. But here is the critical part. Those videos actually helped me.
They were useful.
They genuinely alleviated my stress. If a smart assistant perfectly anticipates my routine and solves a problem I haven't yet voiced, my life is objectively improved. If the result aligns with my overarching long-term goals of being healthy and productive, does it really matter if the artificial intelligence initiated the thought?
But wait,
I am still the one executing the choice to watch the video and take the advice, right?
it matters deeply. It matters because the underlying architecture of that system is designed to monetize your choices, not to act as your benevolent digital therapist.
The intention doesn't negate the positive outcome.
In your case, the outcome happened to be helpful, But the algorithm didn't give you what you wanted because it cares about your mental health. It did the math on what would keep your eyes on the screen with the least amount of resistance.
So it is a win-win.
When e-commerce sites understand your price sensitivity and your style preferences better than your best friend, you aren't simply being helped. You're being optimized for extraction.
Optimized for extraction? That sounds a bit cynical, don't you think?
It is just a business model. The system knows exactly how much friction to remove to guarantee a transaction. It knows exactly how much you are willing to pay based on your historical data.
Which is efficient.
Yes, you are acting on a desire, but the parameters of that desire were calculated by a neural network to maximize profit. You are essentially just following what the algorithm statistically expects from you, rather than making an authentic, independent choice.
I see the concern for sure.
That is the core argument for users who are deeply worried about their digital autonomy. The convenience is just the bait.
I understand the skepticism, but I am not convinced by that line of reasoning because it completely strips the human being of their agency.
I don't think it strips it. It acknowledges the reality.
It assumes we are just passive, helpless subjects. The text we are discussing brings up a crucial concept here: conscious choice-making. It argues that this exact awareness will be the most important skill of the coming decade.
Okay, but what does that look like in practice?
The very fact that you and I are having this discussion proves that we can step outside the algorithm. The fact that our listeners are engaging with this idea right now means we have agency. Awareness is the first and most critical step.
Just knowing it is happening isn't enough, though.
Once we understand how this works, once we know that our hesitations, our vocabulary shifts, and our tab switching are being tracked, we can start asking better questions.
But what does asking better questions actually accomplish against a supercomputer? Questions like what?
Questions like, what version of me is being constructed by this AI right now? We can look at the recommendations being served to us not as objective reality, but as a mirror of our past choices.
A funhouse mirror, maybe.
If I look at my feed and I don't like the reflection, I can change it. If I see that the AI thinks I am highly prone to political outrage or that I am susceptible to late-night junk food ads, I can deliberately choose differently.
You think it is that easy to just choose differently?
I can choose in ways that align with my true, conscious values rather than those algorithmic predictions. I don't have to completely reject the technology. I don't have to throw my phone in a river and retreat to the woods. I can maintain my autonomy through mindful, deliberate engagement.
That is a very compelling and optimistic argument, I will give you that. But have you considered that mere awareness might be entirely insufficient against a system that processes behavioral data at this scale?
Insufficient? Why?
You're talking about mindfulness, but the AI operates on a subconscious level. It anticipates your needs before you can even consciously formulate them.
But if I am mindful, I catch it.
Being logically aware that a system might be manipulating you doesn't necessarily stop the manipulation. Not if the user interface is explicitly designed to bypass your rational defenses.
So we are just powerless?
No. But to truly fight back and reclaim your digital autonomy from this level of predictive modeling, passive awareness isn't enough.
Then practically speaking, what is the alternative to mindful engagement? Are you saying we just can't use these platforms?
The alternative is active disruption. The material outlines specific strategies to reclaim your desire, and they require much more effort than just asking good questions and reflecting on your feed.
Active disruption? Like what?
You have to take measures that actively scramble the AI's predictive models.
Scramble the models how? By deliberately clicking on things I don't actually like?
Yes, actually. By deliberately breaking your own established patterns.
That sounds exhausting.
It is work. If the AI relies on consistency, the fact that you always order from the same delivery apps on Friday nights, or that you always linger on the same type of influencer videos, you have to intentionally introduce noise into the signal.
So I have to be unpredictable on purpose?
You have to protect your attention as a profoundly scarce resource. You have to regularly disconnect and sit in silence, completely away from the observational net. That way you can remember what your baseline thoughts actually feel like.
I can agree with the disconnecting part.
You have to question why you want something right before acting on it, recognizing that your initial impulse might have been planted there seconds earlier. It is a constant, active daily battle against the silent reader that is always trying to categorize you into a predictable demographic.
It is definitely a battle, and it seems we're looking at two very different approaches to navigating the exact same reality.
Definitely.
To summarize my position on all of this, I firmly view AI's observational intelligence as an incredibly powerful tool for self-discovery and a friction-free life.
Even with all the tracking.
Yes. By analyzing our choice architecture and recognizing our patterns, even the ones we don't see ourselves, these systems can provide unparalleled personalization, from optimizing our daily productivity to protecting our health.
If you trust the system.
The key is that we must refuse to be passive subjects. By practicing conscious choice-making and consistently aligning our digital habits with our actual stated values, we can harness the immense, tangible benefits of this technology without surrendering our autonomy.
And to summarize my perspective, I believe we must remain highly, constantly vigilant against the convenience paradox.
Vigilant is a good word for it.
While the frictionless, perfectly tailored experience is incredibly seductive, it masks a reality where our desires are constantly being nudged, categorized, and monetized. If an AI understands the rhythm of your typing and the emotional tone of your deleted text messages, it isn't just serving you.
It is shaping you.
It is actively shaping your behavior. Without deliberately protecting our attention and intentionally making unpredictable choices to scramble those models, we risk losing our authentic desires entirely to the commercial expectations of algorithmic business models.
Well, despite our different approaches to managing the risks of this technology, we clearly converge on one undeniable truth from the material. The era of what they call observed freedom is definitively here. We are living in it.
We are. Passive consumption of digital media is simply no longer an option.
Fully agreed.
Every single digital interaction we have, right down to the music we play when we are stressed, or the fractions of a second we hesitate before clicking a link, is feeding a living, constantly evolving model of who we are.
Which brings us right back to that opening idea, the book that reads you while you read it. The digital diary is no longer a passive object.
Far from it.
The pages are actively interpreting your keystrokes, your hesitations, and your unvoiced thoughts. The AI is watching the architecture of your choices, and it already calculates what you want.
So the question is, do you still know?
Exactly. The question we leave you to ponder today is this. As you scroll through your feed later today, are you paying attention to what the AI is learning about you? And amidst all this incredible seamless convenience, do you still know what you truly desire?